One time, me and Maisie were in an argument, and I did a droopy dog impression, and that's probably the most poorly timed joke I've ever done because that did not help, and it made it worse. I was like, "Oh, I'll make this go away," and then I did a droopy dog impression, like, "I'm so happy," and then she didn't.
Oh, you were because you're making fun of her for not being happy.
No, she was talking about something in her throat, and I was like, well, maybe you'll sound like Droopy Dog or something. I don't remember, but I messed up. So, yeah, humor it's a hit or miss thing, I feel like.
Yes. You don't want to have a walkout at a comedy show.
Yeah.
Or
your house.
In your house. There's and there's no bouncer to keep her down. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you got to keep it down while the guy's talking. Wait till he's finished. That would be great.
You're definitely gonna see her after the show.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe you won't.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Seth was actually asking me. He's like, she's going to school. She works. She has a baby. How does she even have time to come on our little show? So,
actually, my neighbor, who happens to be my cousin, is moving today. So you guys got me out of helping him move. So
we are wonderful.
Look at us.
Yeah. Not mad
You're
about
welcome.
it at all.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Do you know the new neighbors yet?
No, actually, I think my other cousin, his brother, is going to take over his unit. So that'll be fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It looks like you could take that or leave that, to be honest. So
yeah.
So Seth, another reason, because I just think Sadie, you're great to have on.
Thank you.
I was reading this Power Now book some more, and I was thinking about presence and about consciousness, and I don't even really know if they're definable or if we really know what those things are. But my question to you was, can we alter our consciousness? Can we do that? And then we had a brief exchange about a paper she'd written. I'll get to all this, but the idea is, I know you're not an expert in all this stuff, but you've read some of it too, and you are an expert in your field of hypnotherapy, as far as I'm concerned, and so I have these questions, and I don't know who else to ask, so I wanted to start with you, and then where I go from there, we can figure that out, But my main question was, what is presence, and does it have a benefit?
Yeah. No, it's funny because when you text me that, or instant message me that, you're like, do you think we could have like an hour-long conversation about this? I'm like, I think we could have like days. We could have like a whole segment on like presence and like, depending on, like I said, like what outlet you want to go with it, or like where you want to take that conversation. Like if you want to stick to the scope of hypnotherapy, it's actually really funny because you were talking about last time when I rewatched the episode, our last episode, it was, it all came back to me, like what we were talking about and how even your intake form that you filled out, and you were talking about, I just want to be more present. Like I want to do that. And I was like, okay, which by the way, when I say I'm going to write you a script, I realize that sounds like I'm going to write you a prescription. That's not what I mean. I don't know if anyone was confused by that. It's literally a script, like an actor would read off of for a movie, but I read it. So it's basically like a story of imagery that I'm talking to your subconscious with. And you were talking about wanting to be more present. And I was like, well, that's kind of difficult because you have to obtain that. And that's your kind of beginning point in any hypnotherapy session. So it doesn't matter what you're coming to me for. We always start with getting you to be present and
really,
like that's number one. You have to be in that, like I said, state of mind where you're just relaxed, like the body totally relaxed, breathing, in that calm, relaxed state, and then just kind of empty-headed, not thinking about anything. And a lot of times when I'm reading a script, I actually kind of put these like little Easter eggs in my script where I say, in the middle of it, kind of randomly, I'll say, you may be having thoughts, like intrusive thoughts. If you notice that you're kind of drifting off, or you lose my voice, you're thinking about something else and you're losing track of what I'm saying. That's perfectly natural and that's perfectly okay. I want you to notice the thought, see it, acknowledge it, and then let it go. And like a part of presence is having that non-judgmental awareness. So like even if you say you're in a session with me and you're listening to me ramble on, and you just start thinking like, oh, I forgot to feed the dogs this morning, and yada yada yada, and your brain just starts going off. What I don't want you to do is go, ah, damn it, I'm not focusing, I got to get back into it. Don't do that. That's what I don't want you to do. I want you to go, okay, my brain is trailing off, I need to get back in the, and I'll just say, when that happens, find my voice again, start listening to it, and you'll naturally let it pass and let it go. Just see the thought and let it go. And like in general, I think that's kind of presence 101, is that non-judgmental sense of awareness, where
Okay.
your brain's going to go on and on and on if you let it, and just be okay with that. Don't start getting mad. Don't start saying, oh, I'm not doing it right, and getting frustrated. You literally notice the thought, see it, and let it pass with no judgment.
But doesn't the next thought just come in immediately then? And then it's like, your stream of consciousness, and is that even so a thought seems almost like non-consciousness. So it's like your stream of non-conscious. Does that make sense even? We don't even know what consciousness is, to be honest. Like when they talk about AI is going to achieve consciousness, I'm like, well, cool, maybe it can teach us, right?
So consciousness and awareness feel like they're interchangeable, definitions. They're not. So like having like self-awareness, that's what they're talking about when they're like, oh, AI is going to become self-aware. It just means that they're going to have its own thoughts that aren't programmed, that it becomes like self-aware. Like I am an entity that has its own, thoughts, where presence is really just about being in the present moment, like not thinking about the past that's already happened, not thinking about the future that's going to happen, only noticing the right here and right now. And the best part, or the best way to do that, is really about stimulating the senses. So in therapy, if I'm having a really traumatic kind of episode with one of my clients in that moment, have you ever heard of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 when you're talking about the senses? So I'll say,
Yeah.
okay, take a deep breath. I want you to notice 5 things that you can see.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want you to notice, 4 things that you can feel. Now I want you to notice 3 things that you can smell, 2 things that you can taste, and you just like get that person to really notice their now, what's happening right now in this moment. And that's why in meditation and stuff like that, a great place to start is like, okay, pay attention to your breathing. And if you just hone all your attention in on that, that's something that's happening presently. And that's why that's kind of that go-to, thing to notice to get you to come back to the present.
Does that end up having positive impact on people, like and people in general, if being more present and now, does that change their mental health or their regular health at all? Do you know? Is that a question you can even answer?
I would say 100%. I mean, I think I mentioned this, they say, but it's like if you were able to achieve presence 24/7, which I honestly think as a human being is near to impossible. You have to be extremely trained to
What about
do
a baby?
that. A baby?
Yeah, like
They don't
is a
have
baby
that.
present?
Yeah, I would say a baby's present. A baby's concern are very what's the word I'm looking for? Like instinctual. Their thoughts are, I'm hungry, I'm scared, I'm lonely, I'm cold. They know those thoughts.
They just don't know how to express them, I guess. So that's why they cry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Besides crying, yeah, crying is their form of language.
Okay. Yeah.
But
So
I don't think we know much about babies as far as like their thought process, but what I have kind of learned or read about is it's all imagery. They think in imagery.
Right. I'm just wondering, like, I know you have a child, so you've
Yeah.
had children. So have you recognized that sort of happening? Like, oh, they're at some point they stop basically being there, then they start having a mind like the rest of us, where it's like in the past and in the future and blah, blah, and sort of fear based. Is there a point
Yeah.
up to where they're always sort of in that moment and in the now?
I think developmentally, they don't have the ability to put themselves outside of themselves, right? Like they don't even have the ability to understand that their thoughts are not my thoughts. So my
Oh,
4-year-old,
really? That's
no,
interesting.
they like, yeah, their frontal lobe is not completely developed. So they don't have the ability to separate their, chronological thought process than separate from mine. So if my daughter's going, I like candy, I want candy, I need candy, and I'm telling her no, candy's bad, she's like, I don't understand. Like, why are you totally not thinking the way I'm thinking? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. They don't have that ability at all. Like,
But they do have the ability somehow. I'm just guessing here from my own experience of they are aware of how you feel or some of your emotions. Like I feel like they can feel, oh, that's frustration, or that's I'm doing something wrong, or they can feel that sort of change in your behavior. Like if your kid gets hurt and your reaction is, oh my God, like then they're really hurt. But if your reaction is sort of laughy and like, oh, whatever, and here's a cookie, they don't take it as serious. You know what I mean? Like they don't,
yeah, like
they read your
like
fear and your cues.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they're looking at us to kind of how to handle the situation in the moment for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't think, I mean, I'm not, my expertise of, childhood development is pretty much watching my own daughter
Yes.
develop.
Yes. Same with mine. Same with mine.
Yeah, this
I
is
did-
mostly just like my analysis and like,
And my skimming through, why is this happening? Should our poop be green? You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking
Oh,
through my
totally.
Dr. Sears book or whatever. Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Sears.
Yeah, that's sort of that's the book I sort of went with, was the Dr. Sears book on the
So
first
Owen's not a
year.
Spock baby.
Is not a Spock baby. Yes. There was a time, it might even been during Spock's time, where the general thing was leave him alone, let him cry to sleep, let him do all these things, and now
That
it's
don't
like
sound
that's
right.
horrible. Like
Yeah, that
the
doesn't sound right
whole
at all.
generations of children raised because this book said we should do it this way, and everybody was like, yeah, we should
Yeah.
ignore them, and then a whole generation of people were raised with giant insecurities and inabilities to comfort themselves.
yeah.
Right? Is that, I don't even know if that's fair.
Well,
but
again, that's like that cognitive ability. Like they don't, it's the whole let them cry it out is to help them self-soothe. But what we're realizing is they literally don't have that ability. Like mentally, they don't have that ability yet.
Right.
They haven't developed their brain enough to be able to go, oh, they're not coming. You know what? I'll just self-soothe myself. Like, but no. They're
5
not
things I can
supposed to have
see.
that ability at that age. They can't survive without their parents. They just can't.
It's amazing too how it flows through them so much that like a crying baby can just be like hands balled up, just screaming, right? And they somehow still don't get exhausted from it or whatever. You know, they don't. They don't really.
They don't explode.
Like if you're standing there balled up fists like that, it's like screaming.
You're gonna
like
pop a blood vessel.
Yeah, and you're gonna get your hands are gonna get blue, and they
Yeah.
just don't. They just like I'm screaming at max potential, and it doesn't bother me.
Kids are great.
No, are they?
I don't know. I don't have any.
No, yeah, they are. Mine is great. I'm really proud of I can't even explain like how lucky I got with mine.
After this conversation, Seth, I'm sure you're going to want 5.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good.
You're really making it sound wonderful.
No, dude, you don't understand the level. Like you learn a whole nother level of love. You learn a whole nother level of like, it forces you out of yourself, which is a cool thing overall.
Yeah.
It really is I'm not trying to talk you into it because it's hard and long, but it's cool.
Yeah. Well, I always think, oh, I'll never have them, and then a little baby waves at me at the supermarket, and I'm like, okay, maybe I could do that someday. But
Yeah.
it's like puppies. It's like when your friend has a puppy. They're fun to go play with, but you don't gotta clean up nothing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's yeah. Um. So once you start to like what you do when you say it's about creating the presence. Are you about creating the presence in that moment, or does that teach you to be present? It doesn't seem possible somehow to be present the majority of the time. It feels like you have to constantly fight and slog to achieve it. Or can
It's
we,
exhausting.
huh? It's exhausting,
Like
did
it's
you say?
exhausting. Like it takes so much effort to do.
No, I find myself getting a little frustrated by like, oh, I'm not doing it again. Shit, you know what I mean? Like that kind of,
Right.
and then you kind of get
Oh,
back
okay.
to it, and then most of your day is like spent not there. So it's like you
Yeah.
have to set aside time, and I feel like over time, does it just get easier to where you're there, or can I change my level of conscious so it goes to that's the default setting as opposed to the normal setting of mind talking about the past or the future or judging and doing all the things.
Hmm.
Can you reset your consciousness to be different than it is?
So I would say it's not about being in that state of mind 100% of the time, right?
Okay.
I don't think it's functional in this world to do that. Like you couldn't have a job and be that way. I don't think 24/7. Did you ever read Michael Singer? I think we talked about it. He's the author of The Untethered Soul, and he just came out with the Surrender Effect.
I haven't.
So phenomenal book. You would love it. Um,
I also don't want to get caught. I've spent a lot of time reading books like this,
uh-huh.
and it's like I love them. But
Yeah.
am I just reading more books that tell me the same thing and not doing it? You know what I mean? Or is that part of sort of hypnotizing my mind to constantly think in a way? I'm sorry to get back to what you're saying. Then. But
No, I think it helps to read about it to like know, well, one, to know like, okay, someone in the world is doing this, you know.
right,
It kind of he kind of explains what it's like to be present, and he talks about the first time it happened for him, and it was during a conversation he was having with his friend. And when they were having this conversation, there was that like awkward moment of silence, and he kind of noticed that he was feeling that awkwardness and like that desire to say something and like fill the room with nonsense. And he was like, why am I feeling like this? Like, why can't I just sit and be with my friend? Why can't I just sit here and be present and be comfortable? Why am I constantly trying to think of the next thing to say? And I think in general, that's what we do in life, right? Like our brains are wired to do that. Our brains are not our friends when it comes to being present. Our brain's job is to be a problem solver. That's the whole reason we have a brain, right? And it's very educated and talented in being able to do that, being able to look at a situation, find the problem, and try to solve it. And it gets to the point where we're so good at it that we're looking for problems even when like we don't want to, or maybe there's not even a problem there,
right.
right? Which is when we start obsessing about the past or the future because there's nothing presently to problem solve. Um, and so I think it's not a bad thing. That's just our brain doing our job. It's just about being able to take that brain and bring it down a notch and just say, okay, I don't need you right now. I don't need to try to problem solve right now. I need to
Right.
just be.
So that's
So
what I
he,
mean. Like flip it a little.
yeah,
Like can you get to a point where you flip it to where that problem solving brain is still sort of there working, but it's not the 90%, and where like your connectedness to the moment thing is like sort of the thing in the background, and flip it so that it's the majority and that noise is the background, if that makes sense.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Is it possible? Yes, I think it's possible. Is it easy? No, I think it takes a lot of training.
That's why there's probably 100 people on the planet that do it, like these yogis or whatever.
Right, right, yeah. Monks, if you want to go sit on a mountain with no distraction, it might be easier.
Maybe.
No. I I mean, but I think it sounds tedious and it sounds like a lot, but really, I think the best practice for, just someone in the everyday common world is to be that observer when you notice that your brain is like, I do it a lot at night, like when my brain's just going, 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 and I'm like, I need to sleep, right?
Right.
I'll do kind of like a self-hypnosis like routine where I kind of go through, I start at my head and I calm down every single minuscule muscle. Like, have you ever done that? Like going through like relaxing your body, and you'll notice how many just muscles are flexed, how much are
Mm-hmm.
tightened. It's these little muscles in your eyes like are squinting. Like you don't realize how much you are just like tight, and you need
Right.
to like release.
It's like,
And
man,
if
why
you
does my head hurt? And then you think about it, it's like, oh, my neck's doing
like,
this.
oh yeah, my shoulders have been up here like
Yeah.
all day. Yeah. Yeah. So if you kind of just bring back that awareness to yourself, to the inner um, realm, you know, like we talked about this like the last time, the observer, the one that sits back here and kind of watches the thoughts go by, kind of try to do that. And once I get to a completely relaxed state with my body, like then it's like about focusing on breathing. A lot of people have mantras, so if you like repeat something over and over in your head, like a sound, like
Right.
that's a popular one. Just to give your brain a noise to focus on or a noise to do in your head to give that voice something to be busy with.
Hmm.
It is a good kind of trick to
Okay.
get your brain to focus not on thoughts, but on just like this right now. And I think and you can do it not when you're trying to go to sleep. You can do it at any time. Like I do it when I'm driving a lot. Um, just try to be present. And what I do is like, have you ever been driving and you have like just like narrowed focus vision? Like you're just like staring at the car in front of you. You have no awareness of what else is going around outside of you. And if you just kind of like all of a sudden like sit back and just take a look around you, look at the horizon, look at what's over there, like what, and you'll realize like I'll realize I take the same drive every day to work, and I never realized like how beautiful that mountain is over there because I'm so focused on this right now and like zoned in
Right.
that if you take a second to just like take in your surroundings and be present and aware, um, it's really cool. And kind of you can even kind of do like an out of body type thing where you notice you're here, then you picture yourself in your car sitting by yourself, and then you go back a little bit, picture your car where it is, just keep going back, back, and back. And then you kind of realize like, okay, like I'm just this like being in this moment doing this activity in a world full of billions of people. Like is what I'm obsessing about really that important?
You're like,
You
nope.
know,
And then you look at the clock and you're like, damn it, I'm late still. Shit.
yeah, yeah. And I'm late for work. You know?
Yeah, I find myself being at peace and blah 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 or whatever when I'm driving, and then it's like I'll get really hyper focused on whatever that person in front of me driving or whatever. They got like I had that happen the other day. There was one of those old baby on board stickers was in his window, and I was like, "Fuck, is it driving?" You know what I mean? Like that kind of line was like coming to me like.
Oh no.
And then I make myself laugh a
But then
little,
you
and then
become
that goes
aware of
away.
the awareness.
Yeah.
The awareness of the frustration with the baby on board sticker.
Um, and then sometime I don't just jumping around here. When we were talking too, you said something that jumped out at me that I wanted to talk about. Is you said something about wise mind. Where you were like, that's like the
Yeah.
wise, and I've never even heard that before. What is wise mind, and then first of all, what is it?
Um, I wish I had a diagram. So I want you to picture kind of a Venn diagram of two circles, right? They intersect in the middle.
Right.
Uh, one side that you have is your rational mind, right? And this is your mind that is extremely logical. It's all about facts. It's the side of your mind that knows 2 + 2 = 4, and that's it, right? There's no emotion involved. There's no opinion involved. It's just rational mind. This is facts, um, evidence, proof, everything that is just like, that's what it is.
But
Then
there's a
on the
whole
other,
group of people
go ahead.
that doesn't matter what facts are. Like they have their own set of fact. Like you can't change their minds because they don't believe in facts. So
Sure.
what part are they? Is that part of the mind just filled with different facts, or is it just ignoring the facts?
So the other side of the Venn diagram is emotional mind.
Okay.
So these are the two extremes of your mind, right? Rational mind, which is facts, and emotional mind, which is totally void of facts. This is going to be opinion, feelings, emotions.
What do you want the facts to be?
Yeah, exactly. Like this is strictly just based on you and you alone and how you feel about something. And like, right, like both extremes are not great. Like, yes, one or the other is better in certain situations, depending on what the situation is. Like if you're doing a math test, you want to be in rational mind, right? You don't want to be in emotional mind thinking, I have test anxiety. This is really like, what if I fail? Da, 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 da. That's being an emotional mind while you're taking a test. You want to stay in rational mind, right?
Okay.
In an emotional mind, say you're having an argument with your spouse, right? If you sit there and you stay in rational mind and you're just like, well, I took out the trash 3 times this week and you've only taken it out twice. And you know what I mean? And you're just completely void of like emotion or understanding or like empathy. That's not going to go well either, right? You want to have a little bit of emotional mind where you're like, I see you, I understand where you're coming from, this and that. In that middle of that Venn diagram that I'm talking about, that's wise mind. So about 20% of the time is when we stay in wise mind, right? It's really hard to stay in wise mind. And that's where you have both rational and emotional mind kind of perfectly balanced. And that's kind of the goal, is to stay in wise mind. So you can look at a situation and say, for example, the examples I already used, if you're taking a math test and you have test anxiety, if you are emotional mind, you can overpower those negative emotions and say, you know what? I really studied hard for this test. I think I'm going to do really well, and actually use emotional mind to your advantage, where you can use it as a positive, where like you're like, you know, you really got this, Mercedes. You've done really well in the past. You got an 80 on that quiz. Like you're going to do fine, but also stay in, rational mind. And
80's
then
not really well.
Wait, what?
No. I said 80's not really well. 80's
Well,
okay.
yeah, I know, but like if you have test anxiety, like this is
Okay.
but and then same thing with the argument with your spouse. Like you want to have rational mind. You don't want to be strictly an emotional mind where you're like, you didn't take out the trash and you're just really upset and you're overwhelmed by your frustration and your anxieties and this and that and your fear of, whatever you're scared of. And you want to have that little bit of rational mind and go, you know what? They also had a hard week at work. Maybe they're just this and that, and like rationalizing it. So anyway, that was kind of a really long roundabout way of saying, so wise mind is kind of the perfect balance between rational mind and emotional mind. And the goal is to stay in wise mind the majority of the time, whenever you can.
Right. So and then there's methods to go about achieving that and staying there. And
yeah,
I guess, again, like sort of changing the way your mind normally works so that it works in wise mind. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah. I mean, again, lots of practice and awareness. And so being aware of, it's kind of like those A and B type personalities, people that are really like just, or what's the other term? Anyway, the people that are kind of just very stoic and
Right.
you can't read them. And it's hard to like engage them. And like, you're like, did you like that movie? And they're like, I found it okay, and just nothing. There's no like depth there. And you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, so everyone thinks emotional mind's like, terrible, don't be an emotional mind. But you don't want to be in rational mind 100% of the time either. You need to be, you need to have those interpersonal skills and be able to like relate and adapt to people as well. So it, again, like on both sides, it takes practice being like, okay, maybe I need to engage a little bit more. Maybe I need to see this argument from their side a little bit more, or vice versa. Maybe I'm being a little emotional. Maybe I'm being overrun by this feeling of frustration, and noticing that, being aware of those feelings, or being aware of like how you're coming off, or what like how your mind is interacting with this situation. It's really, again, comes down to awareness and presence. And if you can stay aware of
Yes.
emotional state of mind constantly, it's just about watching those thoughts. And it's hard to do, especially when you're having like an intense moment, right? If you're having a really big argument with your spouse, it's hard to kind of step back and go, wow, I'm being, really illogical right now. I'm actually being extremely emotional. I'm not even upset about the trash. I'm actually feeling just really insecure because I haven't had quality time with my spouse in a while. And I feel like he's neglecting me.
Yeah, I got sort of blindsided, and I was in like a really bad argument with my wife, and I was like, I was so, and I've been, I was so. It took me until it was over, and and I got out of the out of that area, and later where I realized, oh, I did exactly what I've been trying not to do, which is to get emotional and angry in that moment, where I'm like, because I was talking about my own self, really. I had to go to a wedding, so I tried to put on an old pair of dress pants, and I was like, I got to go get new pants. I'm getting big, we're bigger, she's like, yeah, I'm bigger too, blah, blah. And I was like, oh yeah, I was going through my pictures a month or so ago, and there's a picture of you from when we first moved in here, and I thought, wow, she's so much smaller there. And then I literally pulled the picture up and showed it to her, and she was like, she got really mad at me, and then I couldn't really understand why. Like, I obviously know now.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I wasn't doing it in any way. I didn't. It wasn't even in my thoughts at all to be like,
Yeah.
you're big. Like, it was like, it'd be like if I showed you a baby picture and you're mad because you weren't little anymore. Like, to me, like, it's just a picture from the. But man, she was so mad. She couldn't understand how I didn't understand, and she's right. It was. I get it looking at it from her perspective. She doesn't realize I was totally like a dumb kid. It didn't even consider that. Oh, she feels insecure about the way she look. Somehow that didn't cross my mind. She's like, I'm insecure about the way I look right now. I'm like, I didn't know. Like, what do you? Nobody tells you you're beautiful more than I tell you.
Right.
And then I got sort of like really defensive and blah 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 instead of staying in what we've talked about.
So sorry, I had to plug my laptop in. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
So you having that comment, what do you think? Where do you feel like you were in rational mind or emotional mind when you said that?
At first, I was in just rational mind. When I showed it to her, I was just thinking,
Right.
like, hey, these are the facts. These are facts. You know what I mean? And then I got into, obviously, I was still in it because that's what my side was sort of like, what do you mean? I didn't mean anything by that, and that the emotion was that I got very defensive and very, about it. And then started to get like, well, whatever, your insecurity, how you're insecure about yourself, that's about you. That has nothing to do with me. And she had that sort of, you ask anybody and they'll tell you that what you just did was assholey. And I was like, okay, all right. And I see that now, but I feel like it was a total innocent blunder. But I think I was in rational mind most of it until I allowed myself to escalate it a little by being angry and emotional and hurt and all that kind of stuff,
Right. It's kind of that transfer. You were in maybe a little bit too much rational mind, and then in an effort to kind of make up for that, became a little bit too much emotional mind.
Right.
Right. And like, so that's what I mean, like staying in wise mind, that perfect balance. And it is hard. It's really hard to do that because you have to use both minds like simultaneously. And when you're so caught up in like one or the other, it's hard to make that shift and not go too far over,
Yeah, it didn't even occur to me and which is another example, like,
I guess
to
you could say
think, wow, this might upset her. It didn't, like, and it should be like, oh, this, if I show her this, she's probably going to be, but it didn't. It literally didn't occur to me.
I guess you could say you had a hard time being the bigger person.
I did. That's right.
Sorry.
That'd be a funny line to say. Like, you'd think you'd be a bigger person. Oh, wait, never mind. You don't want to use any of those phrases. I'm a lot less funny in arguments. Let me put it that way.
Do you think if you made a joke in an argument that would de-escalate and help the situation, or would it just make it worse?
It does both. Depends. It totally, because often when I make a joke, it's funny to me.
So,
You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's not necessarily funny to everybody, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's sort of, you can't really do that in relationships to be like, you say something sort of, because comedy's sometimes mean. So you say something sort
Yeah.
of mean or sort of, or point out a truth. People don't, and the truth is funny until it's not to that person, you know? So
Right.
sometimes it de-escalates it, and sometimes it just is, oh my God, you're always the person saying the thing too far and then being like, I'm kidding, you know? So,
Yeah.
but to me, I feel like it's all about, for me, it's all like, what was the emotion behind it when I did it? Did it come from a vindictive place or did it come from a heartfelt place, you know? And
Yeah.
those
Like the
are,
intention
I think
behind
those are
it.
kind of you can see that,
Yeah.
you know.
one time, me and Maisie were in an argument, and I did a droopy dog impression, and that's probably the most poorly timed joke I've ever done because that did not help, and it made it worse. I was like, "Oh, I'll make this go away," and then I did a droopy dog impression, like, "I'm so happy," and then she didn't
Oh,
think it
you were
was very
but you
funny.
because you're making fun of her for not being happy.
No, she was talking about something in her throat, and I was like, well, maybe you'll sound like Droopy Dog or something. I don't remember, but I messed up. So, yeah, it's a hit or miss thing, I feel like.
Yes. You don't want to have a walkout at a comedy show
Yeah,
or
your house.
in your house. There's like and there's no bouncer to keep her down. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, hey, you got to keep it down while the guy's talking. Wait till he's finished. That would be great.
You're definitely gonna see her after the show.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe you won't see her after the show.
Maybe not. Yeah.
And then you another getting back to the whole presence thing and you said you also said that you did an essay on stress levels and the biopsychosocial impact on an individual. I don't even know what most of that means, and you did a whole essay on that.
I did. Yeah. So
Why? Why did you
biopsychosocial,
do that?
because I'm in college and yeah, they make me do stupid things like write essays about stress levels and
Was that? I mean, that's something. Is that something you were interested in doing, or something you were assigned?
it was relative to the class for sure, but yeah, it is something that I'm interested in doing. So it's really crazy how much stress is really at the root of every issue. A lot of the issues that people come to me for anyway are stress related, and that's it's the epidemic of our current generation is our stress levels. There's people that walk around in stress mode, fight or flight mode, the majority of their day. And that's just not how we were developed to be. That's not how we should be. Our stress, our fight or flight response, is really useful. And everyone always gives you the example, like if a lion's chasing you, you're going to want to be in fight or flight mode. And that's kind of where it came from. It really served a purpose as we were evolving. But what the problem is now is that our perception of what stress is has totally changed. So a deadline at work is stress. You know, Bombing at a comedy show is stress. And that's how we perceive it. So, and it's a completely physical reaction to your outside reality. So what happens in fight or flight is your heart starts pounding, your breath gets tight or faster, you're more tense, right? And other things shut down. Your digestive system shuts down because you don't have time to digest your food if you're, running from a lion right now. You need to use that energy to do other things like run. So when you're operating in that mode for so long, so often, it causes havoc on the body because your body cannot sustain that, level of physical response for that long. And we do it all day long. We're constantly stressed out. We're constantly in that state of mind. And what happens is it kind of spills out into other aspects of your life. So people that come to me for weight or smoking or even, intrusive thoughts and anxiety and ADHD, sometimes I get really frustrated with the overuse of ADHD, which you've told me that, your friends have diagnosed you
Oh
with
yes.
that. and it's kind of frustrating because it's like, so wait a second. So like my problem is that my brain is really active and really aware of like the situations going on around me. Like if we're talking about evolutionary, aspects of the mind, like stress response and things like that, it was really useful to be heightenedly aware of your surroundings,
Of
right?
everything around you, yes.
Yeah, it was really useful to be like, ooh, red berries. Ooh, there's a lion over there. Oh, and just being totally cognizant of, what's going on around you. That was an advantage. That was something that we needed to survive. And now that we live in a society that expects you to sit in a cubicle and stare at a screen for 8 hours, you're like, oh, well, you have a problem. You can't do that.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Same
that
with
sucks.
classrooms, like kids, like when they're in the classrooms and they're like, "Oh, he has ADHD or whatever," and it's like, no, he's
Totally.
because
We're
you
diagnosed
expect a
with like
child to
3.
sit still for 7 hours or whatever, or an
Right.
hour, or whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's unrealistic to have that expectation on the human brain, and we do. And we actually tell people there's something wrong with them because of that. And it's like that's not fair. It's and actually, I mean, I don't know, we didn't have this terminology back then, but maybe back in the day, in the caveman days, that was an admirable quality, and the fact that we look so down on it and Adderall and all these other drugs are just becoming like candy and being handed out. I mean, I've been prescribed Adderall, and I was like, no, I mean, I never said that was a problem. I just said that that's, because they give you those little questionnaires and things like that, and they're like, oh, well, you could possibly have ADHD, and it's like, okay, I don't really see that as a flaw unless like, yeah, I'm trying to sit there for 8 hours, which who wants to do that? Why is that?
Right.
Why is it expected that that be an ability for everybody? But
What's wrong with the people that
sorry.
do have that ability? Like, what's wrong with their brain? Like, what may, you know what I mean? What makes you the type of person that can just sit in one place for 8 hours? Although you
Being
are in the,
hyper focused,
huh?
like being hyper focused on one thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess that's
Yeah.
being on the now, in there in the now. You know what I mean? You could stay focused, keep their mind focused on one thing at a time. That's. I think we need it all. I think that's part of why why there's so many people or many people in the clan. Like everybody has a little bit different mindset, and then those things pay off for the group overall over time. Does that make
hmm
sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Everybody's different. And have you ever heard of the concept of flow?
I got like a rapper has flow. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Exactly. No.
No, I haven't
No.
heard of it that way. No, I haven't heard of whatever. What do you mean?
So if you're in a state of I don't even remember who coined the term, but they call it flow. So basically, when you are so hyper focused and involved in an
I'm in the
activity,
flow.
yes,
Yes, they can have that in the
exactly.
kitchen, working a line where like you're just in the flow and everything's just flow. You know what I mean? You can have it.
Yes,
I can have it when I'm writing jokes or when I'm writing. It's like, I'm locked in right now. I'm in the flow, or everything that comes to you, you have the line for it. Like, yeah, 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 yeah. I
yes,
think that's sort of what athletes get too when they say like that. I'm in the zone or whatever. They're just locked in
yeah,
and just in it.
totally. It's and then like a great kind of like evidence that you're in the flow is when time just flies by. Like you have no concept of time. Like next thing you know, you're like, holy crap, I've been doing that for 2 hours. I feel like I've been doing it for like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
so like into it. And the the concept of flow is actually something that I feel like a lot of people are missing in their lives, and it's so healthy for you. So last time we were meeting, I remember we were talking about like theta brain waves, like that's kind of the state of mind that I want people in when we're doing hypnosis and things like that. Well, there's also uh, gamma rays, not gamma brain waves, uh, and it's this state of mind that kind of perplexes scientists a little bit because one, we don't know how to obtain it. It's kind of this level of consciousness that we don't really know. There's no other purpose for it. So like delta is associated with sleep, right? Like you have to be in delta state to fall asleep, like stuff like that. Well, gamma level is like there's no purpose for it outside of like it's just this extremely heightened awareness. It's almost like enlightenment. So if you do
We
yes,
all have a seed of
meditation.
enlightenment in us.
I'm sorry, what?
I was just thought of a quote. We all have the seed of enlightenment within us. So when
Yeah.
you said it that way,
So
it made me think of that.
if you put like one of those like, EEGs on a monk's head, like they could be in this like gamma brainwave, and it's like really rare to find somebody in this state of mind. Well, people that are in flow, like when they're really, really into it, they're in that state of mind, and it's where the brain is just like it's actually like the most active brainwave. And so if you look at like beta brainwaves, that's kind of your stress response, and it's really active. Gamma is a step above that, and it's insanely active. Like if you look at like the wave, it's like really, really jagged, and it's like yeah, enlightenment, like the level of this consciousness is so rare, and it's so hard to get to. But they found that when people are in flow, like that's when they're most naturally in that brainwave, and it's really cool. The only other time that you're in that brainwave is when you're dreaming or when you die, like right before you die, which is weird.
That is weird.
Yeah. And it's just like your brain is just like extremely active, but in like a positive way.
What about during like, you know how when the brain sort of stops, I don't know if stops time is the right word, like in a car accident where all of a sudden like you get that sort of hyper focus thing. Have you ever had that happen to you where it's like in like that much time, all that information rushes into your head and it feels like sort of time is not real at that moment? Does it?
Right.
I mean, I can't. It feels weird to even try to describe, but like I've had it in car accidents or something too, where it's
Like almost like that 5 seconds felt like 5 minutes.
yeah, like you
every
react
single
and
thing.
you just react sort of naturally. You do the things you're supposed to do. Where you would, if you stopped and thought about it all, you couldn't do that.
Right,
You know?
right. Yeah, like your brain just your body goes into like I got this mode.
Yeah.
You're even like consciously thinking about what you're doing.
Have
Yeah.
you ever had something like that, Seth?
Yeah, one time I fell through the attic when I was younger. I was helping get chairs down from there, and then I guess I stepped on the part you're not supposed to step on, and then I just felt it give, and I went, and then like I don't even remember thinking, and then I just remember seeing the floor come closer to me, and then my hands reaching out, and I grabbed the one of
bar
the
that you were
yeah one of the
standing on?
bars yeah, and then I caught myself, and I was dangling there, and then I didn't land on a ton of shit in the garage and get hurt.
Right.
So yeah, that was weird. That's like the only time I've been like, whoa. I don't even remember thinking, oh, I'm falling. I gotta grab something. It was just like, boom, and it was slow motion. And then when it was over, I was like, wow, that was fast. And then I was just dangling there.
But the time seemed like a lot. It
Yeah.
slows down time.
And
There's
I
a
hit my
thing
head
that
on my
happens.
uncle, or I hit my
You hit your head on your uncle.
I hit my uncle in the head with a chair. The chair I was carrying,
Yeah.
it fell, and then I dropped it, and it landed on his head, and then I caught myself, and then he helped me down. But yeah, that's one of the times like that.
I don't know if that's
I wonder if
if
it's
that's
like more
related.
like one of those like involuntary reaction like situations,
Yes.
kind of like one time I was in a hotel room and my daughter was sleeping on, the bed next to my bed, and I was like totally asleep, but I heard her rolling. And like literally next thing I knew, she was rolling off the bed. I jumped out of bed and I like grabbed her before she hit the ground.
Yes.
And I didn't even like you're not even like thinking about it. You didn't even realize you were aware that she was rolling off the bed. Your brain was just like she's rolling off the bed, and then you like jump. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was weird.
I do know what you mean. Like, yes, and that is weird. But I think that your mommy brain has a different connection than maybe mine would, or probably. But there is that heightened sort of awareness
Yeah.
of what's happening, where their baby, whatever, will start to fall, and you somehow can spring into action and sort of see it coming, and
Yeah.
stop
Yeah.
them, and yeah.
Yeah, like you're predicting the future.
That's in the flow, baby. I'm in the flow of saving my baby's life.
Super.
Yes. So I want to get. So I know I keep jumping around because of my gift of ADHD.
It's a gift. Yes, there you go. I like that.
So, what is what? There's a couple words in your essay, like just the stress level and the biopsychosocial impact
Hmm.
on an individual. Like, what does that mean? Like, you're saying like that the having those stress levels changes your entire health and mental health and physical health. Is
Yes.
that what biophysical social, psychosocial? Is that what that means?
Yes. Well, yes. Okay. So back in the day, we had a biomedical kind of frame of mind when it came to um, health. And what that means is we saw the body broken up into basically different parts of a whole. So we kind of talked about this like last time. So like if there was something wrong with your heart, oh, it was your heart's fault. Like something's wrong with your heart. If you had problems breathing, oh, there's something wrong with your lungs. Like that area of your body was responsible for whatever ailment you were experiencing in that area of your body. Now we're kind of transitioning to a biopsychosocial frame model where we're basically saying that it's all involved. So biologically, psychologically, and then socially, all those aspects of our lives have impacts on our body simultaneously at one time. So, like, for example, if you have a loved one died, you can develop an ulcer, and that has nothing to do with your body's health or where that ulcer is in your body. It's not that area that has an ailment. It's because of the biological factors, the psychological factors, and the social factors in your life. So the social factor would be the death. The psychological factor would be maybe the depression or the grief that you're experiencing. And then the biology factor would be those two combination of things having an impact on your physical state. So, which is really interesting. Like we're discovering that what's happening outside of ourselves, psychologically and socially, is having so much more of an impact on us physically than we ever perceived before. So, um, there's all kinds of studies. Like for example, you have a 30% less chance. How do I want to word this? Like if you're lonely at the end of your life, loneliness kills more than any other ailment that you can possibly get.
Is that true?
Yes. So, like heart disease, cancer, things like these physicalities that happen to us as we age, we can up our uh, nutrition. We can start eating healthy. We can start exercising more. But if you're lonely, that has more of an impact on your body, and you are less likely to survive after a certain age than any of those other ailments. Than your health, your diet, your exercise routines, things like that. And it's insane. And it's like we're just finding this stuff out, that like these different social aspects of our lives are so much more impactful than what we previously knew about. And that's what I was talking about with stress. So like stress, yes, like we just talked about the autonomic nervous system and the fight or flight response and this and that, it does have a biological impact on our bodies, but it also has a psychological impact on our mind, right? And that's how we develop mental disorders or mood disorders such as anxiety, things like that. And then it also socially impacts us, right? When we are stressed out, we are exhausted emotionally, we are more likely to become agitated, and that can affect us and impact us in so many other ways. We can push our loved ones away. It can really damage our marriages, things like that. And that's what biopsychosocial model means, is that we're looking at this in a broader scope than just medically how is it affecting us. It's affecting us in all of these different aspects of our lives.
Huh. And then what's the solution for that? It sounds like all these things are solved with presence.
Totally. In this sense, yes. I mean, yeah, like we can do little things, really take a look at your life, see what your work environment is like. We're really trying to shift in general. Society is trying to shift a new leaf in that, as far as making our um, employers more accountable for work-life balance and satisfaction at work and feeling supported and having a healthy environment and this and that. Like we're finally focusing on that. So yeah, those are important aspects, things that are in your control. Yes, absolutely, have control over that. And relationship wise, like human interaction and human relationships are more important than we ever realized too.
That blows me away, that loneliness thing, because I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of people are, that's a thing a lot of people deal with is loneliness,
Yeah,
you know?
it's such a killer, especially for, the older retired community that don't have a lot of family or have had their spouse, pass on and things like that. It's a total killer, loneliness.
Huh.
And yeah, it's a new epidemic that we're kind of finally focusing on. And it's like if you and
We live in
even
an
stress.
individualism, a culture based on individualism. So it's
Oh
like
yeah.
that seems like it would lead to loneliness, which is then, huh.
Yeah. Yeah, we totally have kind of that independent mind frame in westernized society, which is great when you're in your 30s and you're, trying to vamp up your career and build a family and things like that. But at the end of the day, when you've had all that, where are you? Who do you have in your life? If you don't have anybody, that's why there's crazy cat ladies.
Right. Do
That's
animals
opinion.
get these same things? Do animals go through these same things?
Oh
Is the
yeah.
human mind that different? I mean, it's obviously different, but is that something that happens with other animals too?
Think about it. Like dogs, they're pack creatures. If you just isolate a dog and you just keep it in like a cage outside, that dog is not a happy dog,
That's true.
you know? And we're intrinsically kind of pack animals. We survive in more of a social climate. People don't do well when they're by themselves constantly. In fact, I mean, think about, we could go so deep with this, but think about like, what do they call it? Like isolation in prisons and stuff.
Right.
Because people literally go crazy, literally. And it's not like,
It made Aaron Rodgers move to the Jets. You know what I'm saying? He did that thing where he locked himself in the dark. I don't even know if you're talking about. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did the isolation chamber thing
Yeah, he
where he
did.
floats. Yeah.
That's a thing we're doing now, is like for fun, right? To go, I'm going to put myself in an isolation chamber so that I can. I don't know why. I haven't really looked into why he did it, but it's something to do with altering his mind or making yourself change
Kinda
your consciousness.
freeing his mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he does ayahuasca and all that kind of
Yes.
psychedelic stuff. So I think that's what he's into.
That's a way to change. I guess you're right. That's a way to change.
I think he's trying
consciousness.
multiple things. I don't know if he's like a big promoter of it, but I know he's done it. I don't know.
So those things drastically, like drugs like that, will drastically change your consciousness for that time, I guess, and then part of that will be residual and stick around. So that's sort of an example of, we can change our consciousness. And
yeah,
I think that we're gonna have to, as human beings, change our. I mean, I think we live in our consciousness has changed basically from the industrial age to now. We live in whatever is it the internet age, or is it still part of a? That's a
yeah.
totally different way of thinking, also, and it has to affect our consciousness. Anyway, every time I talk to you, I got a million things, and I'm like, I want to talk about this. Now that makes me want to talk about this.
I agree.
Right?
Let's just take some DMT and like.
Fuck your profession. Let's just do DMT. Should people be going to therapy for years and learning how to change their consciousness and the way they think, or you know what? Fuck it, do acid.
Yeah.
I've actually been really interested in looking into microdosing a little bit more.
Oh yeah?
It's awesome. I mean, just the research that's coming out from it. And I mean, like microdosing. I'm not talking like really like tripping out on shrooms and stuff, but like if you just microdose just enough to not have like those, really crazy side effects. It's done leaps and bounds with people with addiction, with depression.
Yeah,
And
I have family members in the addiction field that say it's working, and same with PTSDs for
Totally. Yeah.
But is it just such a tiny dose that you don't even really it's almost subconsciously helping you, or is there some?
It's such a tiny dose where you don't like hallucinate. Like the side effects that come with it are subsided. Like it's that small amount. But
Side effects? That's the fun of it. What do you mean? You're getting rid of the fun of it.
It's a side effect.
Oh, it is?
Poison.
Okay.
Yeah, but also like I mean, anyway, I can't get too much into it. That's not my like realm of expertise or anything, but it's very fascinating, like just what it does to the brain and how much it opens up these like new neural connections and like just and that's literally all it is. It's it's giving you a new perspective that creates these new neural pathways so that like you're not running into like those trigger points anymore, which is like insane,
Right.
right? It's like
And through
literally rewiring your brain.
yes, and you can do that with hypnosis can start to do that too, right?
Totally. Yes. That's
Right.
exactly kind of our goal. Yeah, is to create those new neural pathways and connections and um like an analogy I really like to use when I'm talking to people about it is kind of a highway, right? Like, so if you think about your neural connections in the brain and sending signals down those pathways, like picture cars going down a highway. But when we have trauma or like anything substantial that happens to us, it will create roadblocks in that pathway. And those cars or those signals will try to go around those trauma triggers or anything like that and kind of create new neural pathways. So if you think about going 65 down the highway and then all of a sudden there's a roadblock, right? And you start taking like the offside roads. Well, now that signal that's trying to get to its destination, instead of taking 10 minutes, it takes an hour, right? Or you get lost in this other like random road that you have to take because of that trauma. Well, in hypnotherapy, like our goal is to remove those roadblocks and take them out of that pathway so that
Okay.
your cars or your signals are going, 65 as fast and efficiently to their destination as possible.
Because the
And
mind,
that's
right, will take you off into that trauma, and then your body is experiencing that for as long as your mind lets you live in it for that. Like if you start thinking about the past or that trauma, then you go there and your mind takes you there for however long you think
yes.
about it, right? And it'll just keep going down that path, and you beating yourself up or what, all those things, and then it gets into your, right into your,
Yes.
that affects your body. But so the idea is to, I get, well, then once you start thinking about, like you're saying, you don't go down that path with it. You just sort of
You
recognize it,
create
dismiss it, and go, keep going straight. Or
Yeah, you either create a new, more solid foundation of a pathway, right? So like we start with like a dirt road and then we pave it and then it turns into 2-lane, 3-lane, 4-lane highway and now your signals are just like
now I'm stuck in
right?
traffic.
Or we remove those roadblocks. So trauma is a loop, right? So what ends up happening when people talk about trauma, right, or PTSD or being triggered, is that a sight, taste, smell, sound reminds the brain of a traumatic event that has happened to them in the past. So normally, when we experience something, right, we experience that, it gets filed away into short term and then long term memory. Well, trauma, that memory has never been appropriately filed away. It stays in active memory. So when that sight, taste, smell, sound happens, it triggers that memory and you just keep going in that loop, right? And instead of having a reaction of like a normal reaction of like a 2 or a 3, you have a reaction of an 8 or a 9 because you're being reminded of that past traumatic experience. So with hypnotherapy, what we want to do is we want to bring that memory to the surface, which can be painful and it can kind of be a process and take a while sometimes. But then once we kind of address it and see it, we see that roadblock, we can help kind of file it into short and long-term memory. So it's still a memory and you still know it, but it's not being triggered. It's not that loop where you keep running that. So those signals keep running into it type thing.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. Get back to your life and help impact people and move. But, and what's your next thing that you're looking into that you're excited about that you're going to be working on?
Oh, I actually am in the phase of deciding what my capstone project is going to be. Um, and I used to work with PTSD first responders and stuff. So I kind of want to go that realm in the trauma department and kind of explore that a little bit more. Hypnotherapy can be used in trauma, but it really needs to be under a, very experienced, licensed counselor, which I'm not yet, but
Right.
I will be. But yeah, I really want to make that connection as to, how just presence and awareness can really help with that situation. A lot of people are so impacted and hindered by their past traumatic experiences and they don't even realize it. That that it's causing all these like reactions and experiences and they don't even know why or where it's coming from. And I think that the simple just knowledge and awareness of that kind of experience is so beneficial, and it seems so simple that we don't give it enough attention and like enough credit.
Right.
And it really can be that simple, just helping the brain heal and mend itself, and then all these other ailments kind of just wash away. It's incredible. People that experience ulcers, or people that experience high blood pressure or aneurysms and things like that, it's astounding how much, when they address their emotional, psychosocial, issues, that those physical symptoms and biological, happenings in their body just dissipate and go away for no natural known cause reason, no medication, no doctor intervention, just a like mindset shift.
Because your
And
body is trying to tell you, you have to be present. You have to not. That stuff is damaging you, so you have to fix it. And
Yes.
and if you don't recognize that, it'll start manifesting within yourself, right? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I think your body holds on to pain and stress in a way that we don't fully understand yet. And these symptoms, these reactions that we have to it's totally your body trying to send you a message like, hey, something's wrong. Like, you need to deal with this, like, now.
Yes. Well, thank you. I know you got stuff to deal with now, right? 'Cause I saw you giving the mommy signal, so, or
No,
whoever's
that
around.
was my husband just left. He asked
Yes.
if he could use the
Oh,
car.
tell him I said hey. Yeah, he's a
I will. I
he's
will.
a
I
great
was
dude.
gonna have him poke his head in, but
Yes. All right.
I will. Yeah.
Well, thanks again. I'm really interested in this presence thing, as you know. So I'm gonna. I want to
Yeah.
keep researching, because I just think the idea should be for all of us to get to there, and it would solve so much. It just
Yeah.
seems so. It's both super easy and difficult at the same time. It's such a weird combination,
And also
Totally.
getting yourself and others to like
Care.
have that as a goal is probably pretty difficult as well.
Yeah. I'm not worried about others.
Yeah.
I used to have that. Like, I gotta wake everybody up to what the truth is, you
Yeah.
know. And I just don't have that anymore. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of that in me, but it's more about like, I just got to figure this out for myself, because then, well, I am everybody. Everybody, like, this is my movie. It's
Tom's every woman.
that's yes.
You can lead by example.
Yes, and I, as always, I like talking to you because the stuff I read and some of the stuff I think, I don't necessarily give it credibility, and I feel like, oh, I'm sort of a kook. So I put this stuff down for 15 years because I sort of felt, oh, I must be wrong, but it just felt kooky to even talk to people about it. And now I feel like, oh, I've sort of gotten back into it because of what's going on in my own life, and then it's neat to go like, there's a profession that agrees with this, like,
Right.
it makes me feel less crazy. So I enjoy
People look
talking
at
to
me
you.
like I'm a kook all the time. So,
Yeah, I don't mind anymore. I'm kind of
better
embracing.
anyway.
Yeah, like,
we're more interesting.
they're the insane ones as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
They don't even know about this. I do want more people to know that because it seems so obvious once you
That's
think
the
about it.
solution. Yeah.
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 So.
Well, one of these days, Tom, I'm gonna have to do like a formal intake interview with you, and I'll write you a script and just see if it helps you. It's a little bit different. We don't have to do it in person. I could just record it and send it to you, and you can give it a shot if you'd like to. But I'd really be interested to see how you kind of react to a hypnotherapy session and see if it does anything for you.
I would be too.
That's a great idea.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
You
great
can do it
idea.
over Zoom, or I can just send you a recording. It's totally up to you, whatever you're more comfortable with.
Yeah, I'd probably rather do it with you. Than just listen
Okay.
to a recording, to be honest. But
Yeah.
all right. Well, thank you again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. I'll see you
Thank
soon.
guys. I love doing this. This is fun.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Have
See
a
ya.
great day.
Bye. You too.